Hi and welcome back to the channel. We're here today in Port Isaac. I've parked in Delian car park, which is just over here, and we're just going to take a walk down to the town. So let's go. Over there is Port Gaverne, which was used by a lot of the TV crews when they were making Doc Martin here. Port Gaverne Beach. And this is the one that was used for the police house in Doc Martin. It's all been repainted now because it was all in blue. Port Isaac, or Porthaesec, as it's known in Cornish, a little corn port tucked into the wild north coast of Cornwall. So we're wandering down to one of the most photogenic villages in the county, which is really saying something because Cornwall was basically one long beauty contest. Port Isaac used to be considered one of the most remote spots in Britain. Now it's where you come when you want a cream tea, a sea view, and at one time you might have bumped into a TV or film crew, as Doc Martin and of course the Fisherman's Friends films were both filmed here. Alright, let's go and have a nose round. I'm here at low tide, so you can only just see the sea trying to sneak back in between the piers. Let's wander on. If you were a fan of Doc Martin, this number 25 was where Louisa lived in the beginning of the series. They did do a programme with a fish and chip shop, but it wasn't this one. They used a different one for it. I've been there. Nice fish and chips. Not certain, but that may have been used for the chemists at the beginning. And of course, the old school where Louisa was headmistress. As we drop down the hill, we get a sense of how Port Isaac works. Houses clinging to the sides of the valley, lanes that were clearly designed for donkeys, not modern cars, and a harbour that looks tiny until you realise just how important it once was. Here, of course, was the view that we usually got if you watched Doc Martin, of the school, which is now a hotel, bar and restaurant. In one of the programmes, I think they had the policeman climbing all over the roof, and then he turned out he was afraid of heights. Just have a sneak around the back here. You can now see where the sign they used to use for Port Wynon School. If you're a pupil here and you were in the playground back in the day, you had a good view, didn't you? Long before the days of sat-navs and TV dramas, Port Isaac was a busy working port. Its name, Cornport, hints at one of its early roles, shipping grain out from the fertile land inland, along with Delabole slate, timber, and all sorts of heavy goods. Imagine small sailing vessels creaking in and out of this little cove, loaded with coal, stone, pottery, and whatever else would fit on board. These days the cargo is more likely to be holiday luggage and pasties, but the layout of the place hasn't really changed, which is exactly why it feels like stepping back in time. Let's wander down to the harbour. So this is the Golden Lion, otherwise known as the Crab and Lobster. We'll take a quick detour down this way. In front of us is what's known as Squeezy Belly Alley in the narrow lanes. I think this is about 18 inches across at the smallest point, so it's a bit of a struggle to squeeze through. But here we are, we made it. If we just have a little wander up here, again, if you're a fan of Doc Martin, this was Auntie Ruth's place. I think they employed next door as well for a neighbour. Oh, it's a nice place up there. Good views. Oh, I'll squeeze back down the alley. No, we're not going that way. Nice to see the flowers are coming out now. We are just in March. We've got ambient sound effects with the seagulls. That little house is called the Shrimp. Oh, that's an adventurous garden. So here we are on what's known as the Platte, the flat bit of ground that's seen just about everything this village can throw at it. For centuries this was the heart of Port Isaac's fishing and trading life, with boats landing pilchards, merchants shouting orders, and carts rumbling up the hill loaded with supplies. Pilchard fishing was a huge part of the story here from at least the 16th century. When the shoals were in, the whole place would spring into action. Nets, barrels, pressing, salting, and the smell must have been memorable. Eventually the pilchards declined, the railway arrived inland, and Port Isaac gently shifted from hard grafting harbour to seaside escape, with tourism taking over after the First World War. Today fishermen still work this harbour, but they share it with walkers, film crews, and people trying to decide if it's socially acceptable to have an ice cream before lunch. This building is one of the oldest in Port Isaac and is listed by the Department of the Environment as being of special architectural and historic interest. But it's now the Outlaws Fish Kitchen. Again, for the fans of Doc Martin, we've got the school up there on the right hand side, and if we just pan over to this side, we have in the foreground what was Bert Large's restaurant for a little while, and directly behind it from here is Doc Martin's house. We'll go have a look at that in a bit. Let's just have a wander down the beach. This of course was also where the Fisherman's Friends used to be filmed. The men who formed the actual choir in the first place, about 2009, they used to sing in the pub and outside here on the Platte. And then when they became famous, you used to get thousands of people coming and standing down here to listen to them. They don't perform here anymore because of health and safety reasons. Just too many people for this tiny village. But they're still out playing up and down the country. Port Isaac became a lot more famous when they filmed Doc Martin here, and the village was then renamed Port Wen. So this is the real life setting for the TV series. And over the years, the village has doubled as the Grumpy GP's home, workplace, and general source of drama. Fans track down the locations: Fern Cottage perched above the harbour, the school, the surgery, and then have that slightly awkward moment of wondering if they're allowed to loiter outside or if they basically just walked into someone's front garden. The irony, of course, is that it's a show about someone who doesn't like people, and it's turned this once remote village into one of Cornwall's most visited little corners.
It's a whole deal doing this job. It's just win-win. There's lots of great things about it: the place, the people, and the work.
We have the lifeboat house at the top, but originally the lifeboat was further up the hill, and they used to have to drag it all through those tiny little streets. I can't imagine what that would have been like, bashing into all the walls on the way.
Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on, boys! Spread out!
Everything here has been a bit of a squeeze. Boats, carts, people, and now quite often tripods and drones as well. The old schoolhouse was designed in the 19th century by Cornish architect Sylvanus Travail. That's a great name, isn't it? It's one of those buildings that tells a quiet story of how seriously education was taken here, even in a tiny weather-beaten village on the edge of the Atlantic. Life in Port Isaac wasn't all fishing and freight. The villagers made their own entertainment. The Band of Hope built a temperance hall in 1895, and it became a home for meetings, concerts and societies. John Wesley preached here in the 18th century, helping to establish a strong Methodist tradition, while Anglicans headed just outside the village up to the 15th century church at St Endelion. Up on the hill outside the village sits St Endelion Church, with a tower built from granite quarried on Lundy Island. Sailors once used that tower as a landmark, steering carefully along this notoriously tricky coastline, praying they'd judge the distance right. Wow, that's a great ceiling. How's that for a church organ? That's pretty cool for a little church like this, isn't it? Nice. He's dancing the Jerusalem. Right, let's go. While we're still on the subject of churches, I called in at St Q to look at their church, which is where the fishermen's friends did their practicing and made a demo tape supposedly in the film. Here we are at St Q, quaint little village. And this is St James the Great, parish church of St Q. Right, let's go in, if it's open. It's a big old church for a little village.
Little eyes, I love you. Hey! Little eyes, I love you. I love you in the springtime and the fall.
It's an impressive organ, isn't it? Don't say that very often. Don't like that. The floor just moved onto me. Hope it's not somebody trying to get out. We have good acoustics in here, no doubt. And the ceiling bouncing your voices back. Blimey. I don't know if you can go up there, but I'm not going to try. It's a bit precarious. God save the king. Well, it's right again now because he is a king, isn't it? 1661. I see. That's a good old door, isn't it? Cheers and gone. So, for such a small place, Port Isaac's always punched well above its weight in faith, community, and apparently the ability to fit an entire social life into a very small building. Bert's restaurant again. Dr. Martin had his house here. They've even put a plaque there as well. Fern Cottage. So if you're familiar with the TV series, you'll know exactly what it looks like inside, except it doesn't.
Okay, so the second you come through the front door, you'll notice there are stairs there. And when it's used for filming in Doc Martin, here there is a false wall with coat hooks on it. If you turn right, this is the reception area. But it isn't, naturally. It's a living room. And that's that.
Because all the insides were filmed in a barn. The magic of television. I think this is the house they used in Fisherman's Friends. Maggie and Jago. There's a new door in it now. It used to be a B&B according to the film. I don't know if it ever was a B&B. The funny thing was, in Doc Martin, they would get in the car and zoom off up this way as if they were going to get out of town. But it's a dead end. For now. Right. Up the hill. Oh, I don't know if we're mad or not, but we decided we were going to have a walk up this hill. So, let's go. I'm sure the view will be worth it. He said, hopefully. I think the dog's already there. Well, big steps. What do they think lives around here? Bolster the Giant. Crikey. So we're halfway up the hill. It's a brilliant reuse of a chapel. And just the right place to have some BLT and some tea. That's pretty good. Three slices of bacon, sure. During the Second World War, the peace of this place took on a whole new meaning. Children were evacuated from cities to coastal villages like Port Isaac and nearby Port Gaverne, many of them staying in local hotels and guest houses, such as the Bideawhile at Port Gaverne. For kids who'd grown up with air raid sirens, this must have felt like another world. Farms, fields, the open sea, and adventures on the cliffs instead of bomb shelters. You can almost picture them racing along these lanes, finally able to be children again, if only for a while. The story of the fisherman's friends, a bunch of friends singing for the love of it, ended up with record deals and a film. Feels very Port Isaac, small place, big waves. On the right summer evening, with the tide in and the sound of voices bouncing off these old walls, you really did get a sense of history singing back at you.
What shall we do with a drunken sailor? What shall we do with a drunken sailor? What shall we do with a drunken sailor? Early in the morning, hooray, up she rises, hooray, up she rises, hooray, up she rises, early in the morning.
Today Port Isaac's a mix of working village and holiday favourite. Fishing boats still head out, but now they share the spotlight with visitors hunting down the best ice cream, cream tea, and foodies booking into places like Outlaw's Fish Kitchen at the top there. It's one of the oldest buildings in the village. You've got the Golden Lion pub looking straight out over the harbour. You've got cottages that look like they were designed to feature on chocolate boxes. And you've got shops selling everything from local art to the fridge magnet you didn't know you needed. From up here you can see just how tucked in Port Isaac really is, sheltered in its little cleft in the cliffs while the Atlantic rolls past in the distance. Walk a little way and you'll find headlands, hidden coves and views that make you wonder if you've accidentally stepped into a painting. It's not hard to understand why writers, artists and filmmakers keep coming back to this coastline, drawn to that mix of beauty, drama and slightly unpredictable weather. So that's Port Isaac, a tiny Cornish corn port, with lanes barely wide enough for a human, let alone a car. A history full of pilchards and cargo, and a modern life that includes TV doctors, sea shanty stars, and more camera crews than it ever dreamed of. It's a village where every corner has a story, every shortcut is probably steeper than you think, and every visit ends with you planning the next one. If you enjoyed wandering these streets with me, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your favourite Port Isaac memories in the comments. And let me know if you've survived Squeeze Belly Alley with your dignity intact. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure, somewhere else along this incredible Cornish coast. Bye for now.